Hey everyone, welcome to The Path of Me. I'm your host, Wendy Hutchinson. This podcast is about bringing together guests who are walking their own path, living their truth, and really in alignment with their soul. So, my guest today is Jillian Hannah. She is one of the founders of Nourish Mindful Events, and they do incredible healing retreats all over the world. And she has two partners who aren't with us today, but they all bring their own awesome sauce to the event package. But without further ado, welcome, Jillian.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
It's such an honor to have you. So I know a lot of your workshop offerings are around yoga and breath work and mindfulness. And I was wondering how you got into this. Was it through yoga teacher training, or was it a crisis in your life, or like what was it that led you into this line of work?
Yeah, well, how far back do you want to go?
As far as you want, it's all about you.
Well, just to be frank, I was born into a family that, did the best they could with what they had, right? And I'm forever grateful for that. With that being said, there was a lot of sadness and alcoholism and I even had lead poisoning. There was a lot of trauma going on,
Oh,
for I first came into this world. My first memories as a baby was being in the doctor's office. And I don't know how I remember this. I literally maybe was like 1.5. And I just remember being in the doctor's office and I remember them weighing me on a cold scale, like my back. And I
mm,
mother and she was like this. And like, so my first memories were always fear,
mm,
not feeling my body, not feeling like my mom felt safe where she was.
mhm.
And, that imprint kind of carried me throughout my childhood. And it's not to say I wasn't, I was fed, I had clothes, they provided and stuff, but I was just I always felt so sensitive and yet like invisible in my life. And I grew up with two younger brothers as well, and they're wild and crazy. And, we had great memories then. But I guess it wasn't until I was maybe the end of middle school, beginning of high school, where things started to get a little hairy for me. And I started to really kind of reach for other substances to fill something inside of me that wasn't content. And, you know, feeling a little lost in my life, feeling very anxious, feeling very insecure. Substances provided that ease for me that I never felt. And that comfort as well. And so I chased that for, many years. And, looking back, it's like, I'm grateful for that experience. And I'm grateful that it was as hard as I did because I feel like it led me to a bottom really fast. And when I was about 21, I was really, really struggling. And it started my life was beginning to be a bit unmanageable. I was going to college. Yeah, I just felt like a lost soul, truly, just going through the motions, but really no sense of feeling,
Safety.
no safety, not feeling in my body. Like I just was lost and I felt as though a shell of a person. And so this is what happened. So I was taking college courses and I had a professor reach out to me and be like, hey, if you need help with your classes or something like that, or even something that's not related to college, like please reach out to me. Love to help you. And he kind of said this to me and the whole class. And I felt really safe with this person. And so I met with him after class and then we realized that I only needed a few electives left to graduate college. And so he hooked me up with the whoever was doing that. I don't even know who it was, a guidance counselor, I don't know, or it was some sort of administrative person.
Mhm.
And The classes that were open were like energy healing classes, a stress management class. It was like a psych self and alternative healing modalities.
Wow, that was perfectly timed.
I mean, it was almost like, and I'm not a very religious person, but I do believe that there's something greater out there. And it was like that moment I was going in this direction, and it was like the universe was like, okay, here's a new path. And
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't like because I was intentionally going in that direction. It was just how it landed. And my professor for the alternative healing class and the stress meditation class or management meditation class, they they were like angels in human form for me. This woman in particular, my professor, she was the first person that looked me in my eyes, and I felt like she looked in my soul. It was like being seen for the first time. And she said, "How are you? What's going on? Something feels off. Like, what's going on? Tell me." And it was like she was just this safe person. And I just like trusted her. And I just said, she was the first person I admitted I was struggling with. And I told her everything, and she didn't meet me with shame or judgment. It was more just like, "Oh, you got to do this. And, maybe you got to go to those meetings in the churches." And she was talking about Alcoholics Anonymous, and I had no idea, what that was or what she was saying.
Right.
Okay. I remember going home that day and looking up meetings in churches, and I never found anything. I was just like, I had no idea. But the point is like that woman took interest in me like no one had. And it was enough to make me believe in myself that things could be different, things could change, and that there were new possibilities. And
Mm-hmm.
every week was like a healing experience with this woman. We really dove deep into energy centers and emotions in the body, and just your past and all that. And I would get up in class weekly, and I would just hysterically cry, like, and I was so open with all these strangers. It was a community college, so I remember I was like the youngest one. It was a lot of adults. And
They're probably all shedding and releasing also because she was obviously an organic healer and no one was there by accident. We tend to find what we need or it finds you, right?
yeah, and they all just, no one judged me. It was just a safe space. And
Amazing.
another class that she taught was like different healing modalities. So she introduced me to acupuncture and cranial sacral therapy and aromatherapy and just all these different things that I had never even tried. Yoga, all that stuff. Every week it was something new, and I just resonated with it. It just felt like I genuinely felt a shift in my body enough to believe that healing was possible for me and there was hope.
Mm.
And so that's kind of where I got that idea of even doing yoga or getting into like alternative types of work. I originally was going, my plan was to be a dental hygienist. And so, things just,
That was a plot twist.
that was a full pivot. And yeah, and so that was kind of my journey. And it was like at that point in time, I started to meditate and like really just try to practice all the things that I was learning, although I still was struggling with substance abuse. And so wasn't until, like a year after that, it was like I was trying to get sober on my own and it wasn't working, but I at least was being honest with myself about it.
That's
And there,
huge.
yeah, and there was strong desire within me to change. And
Mhm.
so that basically is what shifted my whole, direction as far as like where I wanted to go. And then it wasn't until I graduated college, I moved back to New Hampshire, and I was still struggling. And there was just one night in my life, I woke up at like 1 a.m. and I was literally drinking like out of a bottle again in a dark place, depressed. And I just surrendered in that moment. And like I say, I'm not very a religious person, but there was something in me that like I surrendered to something greater than myself. I literally got down on my knees and I was like, I don't know if there's a God or what it is, but like I need help. And that was the first time I ever did that. And the
Mhm.
next, my boss, I was opening up the restaurant that day. And my boss was like, do you need help? Like, is something going on? Are you struggling? And it was just like, are you kidding
Wow.
me?
Wow.
And so I just, again, he was just another person in my life that put their hand out to me. And that's all I needed. I needed someone to see me again. And just like, I was willing and ready. I just didn't have a freaking clue of how to do it. I always kind of felt like I'm like lost up here and I'm like, okay. And so these people just kind of brought me back to this grounded sense of like hope, in this realm.
Yeah. I
You know?
really feel that, recovery work is so parallel to the ascension process
Oh, yeah.
because instead of going out and seeking, medicating, numbing, you learn to go in. And once you
Hmm.
start going in and unraveling and unpacking and having more stress tolerance to go in, your revelations and knowing and connection is expanding, your consciousness is expanding. And so I feel a lot of souls have chosen substance abuse as their gateway to their soul healing, which doesn't really sound like it would make sense, but to me, it really does.
No, it definitely makes sense. I totally agree because you have to go to the dark places sometimes to be willing to open your eyes to a new possibility. And I also feel like people who have been through the most pain and can get through that stuff and get to the other side are some of the most powerful beings I've met.
A
They're
hundred
the
percent, 100%.
that darkness. And one of my favorite, like, my favorite kind of people, I forget if it's like we call it a decorated soldier of consciousness, you
Mhm.
know, all the badges or all the things that you go through, but those people are the ones that come out of the flames but always go back with buckets of water and try to help people get out of the fire, those.
100%, 100%. But also, I feel there's also a soul history. There are a lot of people on planet who have been in these redemption mission cycles and have been here to raise humanity and lift consciousness. And they have in their soul lineage a tremendous amount of suffering, guilt, regret, from as their soul self working towards redemption and trying to raise humanity and help the planet ascend, have in their lifetimes carried a tremendous amount of suffering and experienced a tremendous amount of human suffering in their human incarnations. So it's not really just the one lifetime, but as you said, there's a soul lineage that has so much that requires healing and clearing for people to really step forward into their power and purpose right now. And we're seeing so many more people forced by the higher self to really start to go in and do the work on deeper levels and, confront the shadow and clear the shadows. And I believe not just for this lifetime, so that they can step powerfully into the role they've come here to play.
Yeah, I love that.
So, how did you end up, creating or coming up with the idea of creating this business and, you know, collaborating with these two beautiful beings to birth this vision?
Yeah, so after I basically got sober and started to heal, I started to surround myself with, you know, better people, I'll say, nothing against anybody. I feel like we all can, be well, but, I was choosing to hang out with people who were lifting me up and we were encouraging each other. And like, you know, I really felt the value of community in that sense. And
Mm-hmm.
so I met some of my best friends, in that community. And then it was just kind of by chance. Like I started getting into yoga. I did my training. I started teaching, but I was also having babies at the same time. So it was a full-time thing. But we have a mutual friend who knew that like we were all into the same stuff and he
Mm-hmm.
was getting, and so he sat us all at the same table. And so I met George and Sydney. They're a couple, they're married now, at a wedding. And it was just like, I do feel like, people talk about soulmates and everything, and I believe in that stuff. But I feel like soul friends can be soulmates too.
Mm-hmm.
And like we were destined to meet and work together because there's just something that happens when us three work together that it just is like amplified and supported, and I feel like a rocket ship when I'm with them. And we started slow, and then eventually we built, organically we've built it into this incredible business where we all get to shine in our own ways and provide service to people, to help people. Like you use the word ascend, and it's the same thing how we believe. Like we just want to help people, provide them with tools so that they can heal within, so that they can show up and become exactly who they're meant to be on earth, like their highest self, their soul
Mm-hmm.
self.
Mm-hmm.
That are, the more like the planet does better. And it's like, even though the world's out there, I say, um seems unbearable, there is such on the flip side, and there's such a powerful movement of people who are claiming their truth and being in their light and creating this shift.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing and sustainable. And
Well, you're
I
seeing it every day in your work.
oh
You
yeah,
can visibly and viscerally experience transformation in your offerings with the people that are coming to you. And, there's no telling who people can become once they start on this journey of self-discovery, self-love, you know, honoring their soul,
yeah, of
understanding that we're souls in a human experience,
course.
right?
Yeah. And so, yeah, so I feel so grateful to do that. And so my part is in when we do retreats or we do shorter events, I still teach yoga. And then I learned breath work a few years ago, and that was such a powerful tool that I was like, I have to learn that. And so that's basically my role in Nourish, is to provide safe space, to provide a little mentorship with George and Sydney, and that tool. And then George is a master meditation teacher. He is one of the greatest teachers I've ever met, and he's evolved into this incredible being. And Sydney is she's like, obviously she does the plant-based eating. She's very into how practices with food and gardening and how we treat the earth, there's a direct connection with that and how we treat our physical bodies. And so she kind of brings that piece into it. And so we all just come together, and we've just created this incredible community and a place where we hope that people can come and feel safe and be well and eat well and have conscious conversation and feel supported. And
I love
yeah, and so
that.
yeah, and so we're doing that. We do New Hampshire. We have a at-home base in New Hampshire. So then we do destination retreats all over the world. And so
That
it's
must have
really,
been exciting to expand, to go global versus just local. That was a big leap, wasn't it?
It was. And like, that's just how we are. We're all very entrepreneur like, but it's like we teach people to get out of their comfort zone. And if
Mhm.
you're going in the direction of the unknown, that's a better place to go than staying in the same cycles. And it's like we've jumped off so many, cliffs, I'll say, and continue to just like level up in our own lives that way. And so we really felt the urge to get out of the States. And so we're heading to Italy next May. That'll be our first out of the States retreat. And very looking forward to that.
Oh, it's going to be amazing. If you want to provide a link, I'll include that in the comments so people can check it out, sign up if it resonates with them. And I just want to honor the work you're doing to support humanity, because so many people are feeling the call. What I feel very strongly is we're at this nexus point, and all of us who are here to be in service and support human ascension are being, if you have not been doing the work, if you've been kind of living in your comfort zone, in your bubble, and you're not, because it's safe, and your higher self is going to be pushing you and pushing
Always,
you hard. Things are
always.
going to start falling apart. Your life is going to start blowing up. Your relationships are going to start fracturing, because everything that's not truth and in alignment for you is literally being shorn away. And it's creating a tremendous amount of suffering, but also it's liberating at the same time. Because our attachments are limitations. If you're here to be out front and be in service and lead, you need to be out front. You can't stay in the safety bubble with the masses. You need to take risks. You need to jump and know the parachute will open without knowing the how, the when, the why, but just honoring that cosmic conscious heart of yours that's pulling you forward. There's a power to that.
There is. And I feel like the more you do it, the easier it becomes. You start to realize, like, you jump off the cliff and, the net that will appear is just the feather bed. And so, there's a lot to what you just said. And I agree that when you start to make shifts and changes from within, that the outside can sometimes seem like it's falling apart, you know, but if you just keep going, it does get better and it gets easier. But I will say, like, for me personally, I think it's taken years to learn that and develop practices, and also learn how to be in relationship with myself again, learn
Mhm.
how to be in relationship with others, and honor everybody's choices that they make. And you know it's I do feel we're in earth school, and that there always be stuff to learn and grow. Like, I'm not certainly done. And just having that attitude of being teachable and taking everything as, like, how is this going to help me, or how is this serving me, opposed to like, why is this happening to me?
Right.
And
Right. That's a big consciousness shift when you get out of the victim mindset. That's a huge growth moment. And also, I feel that, I think one of the revelations I had as, like you, being a healer, teacher, guide, is the acceptance that some people are going to choose not to go higher, and that is their journey, and it's okay.
yeah.
And what I've received also is that maybe this lifetime is a lifetime of preparation, and they'll transition out and ascend higher from the other side, or they'll transition back in and come in at a higher level of consciousness, which will allow them then to ascend in a different lifetime. So that was a really big revelation for me, because I had to do a lot of ego work around that. because you want to see people succeed and you want to see their consciousness expand and you want to support the journey. But if they're not on board, you also have to allow them to be exactly where they are and bless them and allow them to go live the life they want to live.
Yeah. And I love that you said like blessing them. And for me, it was always hard because there was, there's judgment that comes in there and at times. And I think that for me, I had to do a lot of perspective shifting and just looking at the good things about people too. And even if they're not showing up exactly the way I want them to or think they should,
Right. I mean,
and
that's
just,
our work, right? That's our work to go deeper in and go, oh, this actually is about me. So I need to go a little bit deeper in here with what I'm feeling and processing and releasing. And then I feel like every time we can release, we do expand and go higher in consciousness. Every time we can release the control and the fear. Because really I felt that my understanding for myself was my worthiness was coming in, feeling that I'm not enough was coming in and playing into this narrative, right? Or this experience. And so also not only that, but also being in a position where you want to support people, I had to learn to just surrender.
yeah, and detach.
I had to detach. I had to become mindful of my patterns and embrace my worthiness and know that people receive what they're meant to receive and it's okay for them just to continue on. Totally okay. Also, I feel like the more we grow energetically and expand in our consciousness, the more we trigger people. I have found that personally.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, hard at first, I think. And
Mhm.
I think that you're right. I think that I was actually just talking to my friend yesterday about this. I think that sometimes too, that there is the way we are, right? The way we deeply feel, like that subconscious beliefs about ourselves sometimes radiate out into the world and subconsciously tell people how to treat us sometimes. And so I had a client actually, this reminds me of this, is that there was a belief or this story that she kept telling herself about like being left alone or left behind or
Mhm. Like
that.
a little abandonment story. A little
Yeah.
bit.
And so during one of our events, it was like that came up for her with me, that I was leaving her. And, you know,
Mhm.
it was so interesting because the truth is that I don't feel that way, but it's like it is when you get into the spaces of like the healing work,
Mhm. Mhm.
you end being like they project that stuff onto
Of
you or
course, because we trigger that wound, and the first response is to project it out. But we're just mirroring for themselves and their own
yeah,
healing. And so it takes a level of mastery just to allow them to feel what they need to feel, or even say what they need to say and go, okay, well, okay, let's maybe take some space. And I've lost so many friends, on this journey because, they didn't have the courage to self-reflect and to hold the discomfort and the emotional pain of their wound. It was easier for them to project on me and walk away from me without realizing that their trigger is their work. The trigger is their work, you know?
yeah, I think, I have learned that being able to have honest conversations has been beneficial and being able to hear people share their truth, even if it is uncomfortable and still passion and understanding. And, you know, sometimes the relationships are better left apart, but sometimes there are relationships that are worth um, working on. And I'm not talking like, student teacher role always, but relationship. general, but
Right.
yes, in that as well.
But it's such a journey, right? Because we're always learning,
Always.
always expanding ourselves, always coming to higher consciousness for ourselves. And I found that the work evolves with us. Our offerings evolve because our frequency is higher. We can continue to do the work and offer service. But I find that as we go and journey on, the potency of the offering changes. I don't know if you found that for yourself or for your retreats, like you're feeling a new level of energy and power as the three of you come together and grow and expand.
I definitely feel that. And I think it comes with, hardships, and it also comes with just experience, and having the confidence in what you believe in and what you see works and how it can change lives. Just that alone inspires us to keep going.
Yeah. I think every person you can touch and help to release something is huge. Even if they're not willing to do the work yet, but there's a conscious awareness that there's an issue, even just that conscious awareness is an opening for healing, I feel.
Yeah. You can plant the seeds and you never know when it will start to.
Yeah. So you've been doing retreats around the country primarily, is that right?
Yeah. So our big thing is we like to kind of hit national parks areas because we love to incorporate nature, and the national parks are incredible. They're magnificent, really, and the energy is amazing there. And so we typically try to go to an area like that, like Yellowstone. We went to Sedona, we went to Bryce, and we've actually done 18 retreats. We were just talking
Oh
about it
my
yesterday.
God. Wow.
But yeah, we try to go to really cool places to make it fun. It's like our schedule is it's a strict schedule. We're basically doing inner work from sun up to sundown. But when we do we'll usually take 2 days to do out travel, like around the national parks, and get people immersed in that energy as well, which is awesome.
Do you take your kids with you, or do they stay back while you go do all these retreats?
They stay back. So my husband has been so supportive of my journey since day one, and he loves and trusts George and Sydney as well, and he knows that it makes me come alive, and that's something that I reciprocate to him as well, and allow him the space to be who he is, and lights him up. And so we're great partners in that sense. And then I have my parents who live closer to me that have really helped. So they'll help me with the kids when I have to go as well. And so
amazing.
It takes a village, as you know.
It does. It does.
Grateful for that. Actually, my husband got to come on the last retreat. We went to Oregon in the Redwood National Park, and
so beautiful up there.
It was one of my favorite places I visited. The Redwood National Park was so magical to me. It was so grounding, and just there was almost like no sound. It was just magical.
It's really interesting when you enter these sacred spaces. You feel it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
The energy is so pure and it's so silent.
It is.
Sacred.
I think it's so sacred. And so, yeah, so I'm excited about that. And another thing that we are doing is we're offering trainings to people. So people can if they don't want to go on a full week retreat with us, they can still learn the tools that we offer, such as meditation and the breath work. And we're offering a lot of people who experience the breath work want to learn how to teach it and become healers themselves. And so we're offering first time ever Nourish training in January. And it's going to be jam-packed with everything that we practice, and then also with that business support and continued support for them so that they can, be that best version of themselves. And
Thing.
yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
So what's your website? Where can people learn more about your events and what's coming up?
Yeah, so my personal website is jillianlhannah.com, and you can find out like events that I'm doing or personal one-on-one breathwork sessions there. But if you're interested in finding out what me and my business partners do at Nourish, you can go to nourishmindfulevents.com, and it has all the things on there that you need. You can learn more about what we do, who we are, put a face to our names. And, we're also on Instagram and Facebook. Oops,
So you offer one-on-ones, which is nice.
I do. I don't do a lot of them. I do a lot of, for people far away, it's nice to do virtual.
Mm-hmm. So you'll do some group virtuals also?
I have, but I haven't done a lot recently. I personally like doing them in person. I'm gonna be honest. I'll do virtuals, but in person, it's like an immersed experience. There's just nothing like it, and bringing in that energy and
you feel that connection, right? It's just more of a real, tangible connection when you're got the people here in front of you.
It is. Yeah, and so that you can all find on our website. We do pop-up events. We're doing one tonight in Bedford, New Hampshire, and so yeah, we stay busy.
Sounds like it. What have you learned about yourself on this journey? What have you learned about who you are?
I definitely learned that I'm worth sharing I'm worth sharing my hope, my life. Like when I was little, like I didn't talk at all. Like I literally did not talk. And so I think through all of this, I've learned to just really find my inner voice and know that it's worth sharing. And I've also developed confidence in talking in public in general because I would cry. I even would cry like before teaching yoga classes. So I just never liked speaking. I never liked being the center of attention. I always wanted to go hide. And so I've learned that I'm a lot more courageous and, just confident. The best thing about all of this stuff is that I've just learned to be comfortable in my own skin, and I don't have to seek outside things to feel good, that my fill me up enough that it doesn't matter what the fuck is going on. As long as I'm here, like that's enough,
That's true power. That's true power when we can walk authentically in our soul and ourselves and know our value and know our worthiness and own and claim ourselves, who we are, why we're here, without worrying about how we're perceived. That's true power. When you can step out and say, this is who I am, and be unapologetic about it. It takes a lot of work to get there.
It's taken me a long time to get here, and I'm grateful that I never gave up, because it is worth it. And, it doesn't mean life doesn't get hairy sometimes. Of course it does. But I think if you can have tools that help you stay grounded and continue to fill yourself up, that you can really deal with anything that life brings you. So
I think one of the biggest shocks for me on my journey was realizing, it doesn't become a life of complete ease. You just learn how to navigate the challenges with more mastery, right?
100%. Yes. That's exactly.
You become more centered, grounded. And also I realized too, that this is a human experience, and mastery requires us to slide both ways on the spectrum. Sometimes you can just be that love and light, and sometimes you need to slide all the way over to stand in your power, raise your voice, stand for what you believe in, and push back on someone who's not respecting and honoring you in the fashion and way you deserve, because that is appropriate.
I fully love what you just said. And I so agree. And I noticed it the same. I've noticed that, life, since feeling empowered, life is like, okay, now let's go fight for what's worth, who doesn't have a voice, and, be that
Mm-hmm.
light and like unfuckable with kind of. And
Exactly. And I think in order to be out front and lead, we have to embody our message. We
yeah,
have to embody our power. We have to embody our core being to bring that through and be a model for those we're serving. You have to
totally.
live it, breathe it, know it, own it, claim it to have impact. It's impossible to create this kind of impact if you're still carrying all the wounds.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to do the healing work. You got to get rid of the baggage. And
It's
it takes,
heavy.
but
It's heavy.
it's so, mm-hmm,
It does take time. It takes curiosity,
mm-hmm. And
right?
willing honesty.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like like I was saying, I do feel like there's such a movement happening that I'm so excited for life and the people that are like really stepping up to the plate and being the change that they wish to
I
see.
feel
And
this surge, like just all the people who are supposed to be on the front lines of this movement are stepping forward. And it takes so much courage. And I can't wait to see when everyone comes online what this planet and this Earth experience is going to look and feel like. Because I feel incredible change coming, despite what's playing out on the global stage. I think we all need to focus on ourselves and our own healing because change begins with us.
mhm, agreed. And it makes me so grateful for the people who were there for me and have taught me, and all of my teachers, and the people who are just lovingly compassionate and held me, until I could hold my own. I'm just so eternally grateful, because if it wasn't for them, I would not be here today.
And then it allows you to be that for others, right? You pay
It,
it forward.
yeah, and in service we receive, and I truly feel like I am so blessed to do this right now.
I love how beautifully aligned your life unfolded, like just at each nexus point, that right person or that right opportunity or that information came in or that training. I love how you had your back the whole time, even though you weren't aware of it, you know? It's like your higher self just had her hand on your back and they're like, no, Jillian, we're just going to pivot a little. Let me go this way.
Well, it's so funny because I remember at that moment, while that time and things were shifting, I remember starting to hear a woman's voice, a girl's voice, and that it's you. She was said it's you that you're listening to, and
Yeah.
and so
And then you learn to trust it.
yeah,
That's a muscle you need to flex over and over to increase your faith in the message, faith in yourself, and no, you're not crazy. No, this is really me guiding me. I'm not crazy.
it feels like love. It doesn't feel like condemning. It doesn't feel bad. It's always encouraging, and that's the voice to listen to more than our ego voice.
100%. Well, before we end, do you have any advice that you'd like to share with people who are maybe going through tough transitions right now? Like something that would have helped you at that time in your life?
Yeah, I love that question. I think for me, I would say don't be afraid to ask for help and find somebody that inspires you and reach out to them and follow them and ask them what they did to get to where they are, and then be willing to do the work. And know that there's so many people that are probably going through what you're going through or have been through what you've been through, and that want to help you, and that you're so worth it, and that the world needs you right now. And they need people to wake up to who they are so that we can continue to shift and create peace on earth, which is the ultimate goal, I feel like.
Right. So beautiful. I love that. Thank you for sharing that with us. I also feel that, people are afraid to walk through the fire, but those flames are purifying also. So you can walk through that fire and burn everything off that's not aligned, but you could also rise like the phoenix. So
Yes, it's
I feel like people need to know that you have to have the courage to walk through the fire and then you rise,
you
right?
do.
Yeah. Jillian, thank you so much for saying yes to this conversation. I've loved every moment of it. And to my audience, thank you so much for being here for this beautiful power hour with Jillian Hannah. And I wanted to let you guys know I am looking for voice messages, which you can leave on my podcast, that I can share on future podcasts. I'm going to leave a link. So if you guys have enjoyed this conversation or have something that served you in your growth and development process, please click the link and share your name, where you're from, and what you're about. I'd love to share that with others and keep this community alive. So have a beautiful day, y'all. I love you. Be kind to yourselves, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.